Hey everyone, I'm excited to announce I have teamed up with First Form Nutrition. Andy Frisella, the owner, reached out to me during Hurricane Helene when I was in North Carolina and offered his assistance and to bring awareness. And now I am teamed up with them on their supplements. And there's some really good stuff like this peanut butter and jelly protein bar. This is a favorite of mine. These meat sticks, I like these because I can throw this in my backpack when I'm going out and doing missions or just in my truck. Protein powders are amazing, like this one, the clear. You can just throw it in your water bottle, shake it up, it's good to go. But what I really like about First Form Nutrition is the clean ingredients. It's not full of a bunch of junk, not a bunch of artificial stuff, soy free. Protein powders are clean, the energy drinks are clean, really good nutrition stuff, creatines, all kinds of good stuff out there. So go check it out. We're gonna have a link for you below and appreciate the support. I want to show you my new favorite supplement. It is magnesium, zinc, and vitamin C all in one. These ingredients are very, very clean. It's in a glass jar too. It's not a plastic bottle. I've been using this for about 3 weeks now, and I really like it. I do it about 3 times a day, but this is going to be going with me on missions when I go travel. That way I can stay healthy, avoid all the colds and flus and all the nasty things going on in airplanes and airports. But check it out. I got 2 codes for you. I got Thick 38 Broker and Howard 20. You'll save 20% on your next purchase. Thank you. Let's get this started, man. I'm actually really excited about this. So everyone, I got an amazing guest here, Paul Moldovian. He has been one of my best friends for a long, long time. I always say he's actually my most trustworthy friend I have. Been wanting to get him on the show for actually pre-hurricane, but my dude over here is always busy. He's always always deployed overseas. But I'm gonna give a quick little introduction about some things I know about you, and then we're gonna break it down because your journey to how you got here is
Pretty
difficult.
entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, so born in Transylvania, Romania.
Romania.
Um, I think from there you immigrated over to Italy and then over to the United States. Speak 4 languages fluently. What 4 languages?
I can get so obviously English not fluently, but especially if I get nervous, I start sounding like Borat. So anytime I'm here and I sound like Borat, it means just I'm nervous. Italian, Romanian, and I can kind of get by in Spanish.
Yeah, that's awesome. So originally joined the Navy, then crossed over to the Air Force, became a PJ. That's where I met you. We actually finished out the last year of our
Yeah,
training
CTS.
together, and then we were on team together at the 2-3.
Yeah.
I think you did 5 deployments there as a PJ, and then got out, and then basically did the same job as a civilian contractor over in Africa for 4.5 years or so.
Right.
Lots of deployments because I remember you're here for 2 months and then you're gone for
Gone.
2 months, sometimes 3 months. I mean, you did a lot during that time doing personnel rescue out there.
Correct.
Um, and then you got an SMU with me. We went
Yeah.
in together. A lot of people don't realize this, but people have asked about who the medic was on that mission because I always talk about my buddy Paul who knocked on the door. Well, you were the person when I put it in the SMU chat and you called me like 2 minutes later and you're like, I'm here at the house.
Yeah. It worked out pretty
That's
well.
this guy right here, everybody. This is Paul. He's the one that actually got hands on the baby first, got the oxygen, which I do want to hear that story because I think I've been saying it wrong, but you're the one that actually saved the baby and brought it out to me in the helicopter. And then other than SMU, you are now doing your MBA at Kellogg
Correct.
down in Miami.
Yeah.
And then you're also um, is it CEO for XPJ?
No, I'm the director of operations.
Director of operations for XPJ, which kind of sounds like what it is. It's a bunch of ex pararescue men,
Correct.
PJs, who are now doing civilian personnel recovery, medevac operations, PJ work.
Yeah, we've done that. I've personally gone to Haiti to pick up a security guard who had fallen off a roof and actually became a quadriplegic. They had the company was called Crisis 24, and they have a bunch of security guards there, and they basically tried to get this guy out for like 3 or 4 days, and they couldn't do it. So they called me on a Sunday, and I got him out by Monday afternoon.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the XPJ mission is, just all over.
We do that. We do some executive protection and then some medical training.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then he also brought me Good friends, man. Brought me an amazing bottle of scotch here that we're sipping on that I never had. How do you say this again?
Lagavulin.
Lagavulin.
It's delicious.
It's I will say it is very very good.
Smooth and peaty.
Yeah, so this is gonna be a fun podcast just for me, just because I'm hanging out with my bro here, just having a chit chat, having a conversation. But let's walk through the whole story, man, for the audience. Let's hear
All
about
right.
being born in
The whole Paul
Transylvania.
lore. The
Yeah,
lore.
yeah. We also, I should say, we call Paul Tattoo Jesus.
Well, I used to have really long hair. Now I got to look more business-like, so I had to
Look, you
cut it off.
definitely look like a tattoo Jesus there for a bit. But yeah, let's
True.
hear about being born in Transylvania.
Yeah, so I was born in '85, so I'll turn 40 this year. But the first years of my life were like in a communist country, right? In the '90s, Ceausescu was basically there was a coup, and Ceausescu was killed on national TV. So during that time, my dad has always had kind of like an anti-government streak, right? So he was kind of like wheeling and dealing, and we had a dish network up in our apartment. That's like my earliest memories. And he would throw like top 40 MTV like parties at the apartment, and that was like an anti-government,
Mm.
like American propaganda thing that you shouldn't do, right? So the Securitate, which is kind of like the Romanian communist SS, would like raid our apartment, and my dad had to run away. And he was lucky enough to meet a Red Cross gentleman who snuck him out of the country and took him to Italy, and then he came back to get us about 6 months later, and snuck us out of the country through like Serbia and then into Italy.
Hey everybody, I love doing this show, but it does cost money. If you can help us by going to our links and buying the products that we are showcasing, it'll help us to continue doing this show. It'll also help us to continue working with future charities and helping people in times of need during disasters. The links are below. Thank you. Didn't you tell me the guy that's running for president right now in Romania was part of
He was the head of the Securitate, or was very high up there in the Securitate business. Back in the day, he was like part of like the Club of Rome and a bunch of other stuff. But basically, he would go out as a diplomat out in the country, into Europe and stuff. And the only way you could do that was if you were part of the government and also part of like some high up,
Yeah.
SS stuff. So yeah.
Wow. And
So that's why I was like, Sean Ryan's like, you know,
I sent that to him.
yeah.
I did send it to I sent him your message. I was like, hey, this is what my friend saying about that guy. But yeah, I'm guessing hopefully he does not get elected.
You know, times are strange, people change. I don't know, but that's just my personal anecdotal experience with my history. So it's kind of weird that now he's going into that, like very Christian, very um, I will save Romania for all that, and it's strange to see happening.
Yeah.
When he was hunting down people 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
It's not. I mean,
strange times we live in.
very, 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 very strange. And you said what age was that when you left Romania?
I left. I was 5 years old when I left Romania and emigrated to this little town called Castiglione, which means the Lion's Castle. It was a small town of about like 8,000 people, and I was the only like immigrant there. And Italians are pretty racist, especially back then. So it was a very difficult time to like just adjust and like learn how to, be in group with people and stuff. So
Did it take you a while to learn to speak Italian, or were you able to pick it up quickly since you were
I
young?
was younger, so I was able to pick it up easier, but I was still always like kind of like the out group guy. I was
Yeah.
never like the in guy or anything like that. So I just learned for me, and this has been a very pivotal or like very like core memory experience. It's always been like, okay, like I will never be part of this group, but I will play soccer better than Italians. I will speak better than Italians. You know what I mean? I will like outdo an Italian at anything. And I think this is like kind of like been with me all the way to now,
Yeah.
So,
I still remember the first time I heard you speak Italian. We were at Disney
oh
in
yeah, yeah.
2020. Um, we all, me, you, Max, we all went out there with your daughter, and we were in the Italian part of wherever that what's that place called?
Epcot.
Epcot.
Yeah,
And the waiter was Italian, like actually Italian. And I heard you speak to him in Italian. The guy was kind of caught off
yeah,
guard. And you guys had like a full conversation for like 5 minutes. And I remember there, I was like, this is so cool that Paul can legit speak like fluent Italian.
yeah. It's weird because when I go to Italy, nobody expects me to be Italian. When I go to Romania, nobody expects me to be Romanian. But it's like, oh, you speak very, and I try to be fluent in both. Like now that I've been speaking like English for the past 20 years, I have a slight accent of both, Italian and Romanian, but mostly I get by. So
Yeah, no,
it's
it's awesome. So Italy until what age? 18 or
yes, I did 5 to 15 in Italy. I moved to the States in '99, like the end of '99, early 2000. Uh, yeah, my dad divorced my mom, uh, and then moved to New York and remarried with a Romanian American uh, girl whose name was Alice, and then brought me over. It's basically like, hey, America. It's like you've been watching movies, Die Hard, freaking all, So why don't
yeah.
you come to America? So
I want to try to find that photo and post it up. But I was saying it earlier about the post you did years ago. It was a photo of you as a young kid in front of the Statue of Liberty, and then it
yeah,
was showing you now. I think maybe at age 35 or something, and like what a difference. But like I think it would be
yeah,
great for the audience because it's inspirational.
yeah.
Because I mean, like when you're that young, I mean, like I think you were kind of saying in that post, you're like, if I could go back and say these things to myself now, or direction.
Yeah, it's definitely been a really interesting journey, just even like now, because immigration is such a huge issue, and kind of like, I'm an immigrant, but I also feel very American, and also I'm really proud of being an American. So it's a different, like it's a very strange dichotomy to be in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. And then Navy at 18, right, or 17?
no, I joined the Navy in 19. So basically, I came to the States from New York. I moved to Tampa, and then I just didn't get along with my dad, and I tried to get out of there as soon as possible. Um, I remember there was a Buds documentary on Discovery Channel. It was Class 246, and I was, we were watching it all together as a family. I was like, I think I could do that, you know. And my dad, like straight up, looked at me and was like, "You're a fucking loser. There's no way you could do that. It's like
Wow.
you just play computer games all day." And I was like, "Fuck you." You know what I mean? I was like, "All right, man." So it's like during the Navy, I wasn't a citizen, so I couldn't do that right away. I became a corpsman, which is like medical guy for the Navy. I got stationed in Japan, so I lived in Japan for like about 3 years.
Oh, I did not know that.
Hmm.
Can you speak
Yeah.
Japanese?
No, I
Oh,
mean I could a little bit, and I just lost it.
okay.
The Japanese is very difficult. There's a very formal way, three different ways of writing. It's super complicated.
Hmm.
But climbed Fuji twice. Was a corpsman in a hospital, and then from there actually went to the Kiryok. I was in the Kiryok for like a 3 month deployment. We broke down on the way to Korea, came back, and then finally got my citizenship in 2006, and then applied to go to Buds right after that. I got to Buds. It was like a 2 year process. I got to Buds in like 2008. Plus, I was class 271, and I was woefully unprepared. I always found like physical stuff really easy to do, and when I went there, I got my ass kicked really bad. We started with like 170 guys, and by the time we got to Hell Week, it was like 55. But I remember we did a pass test or like the PST for butts, and I ran. I think you had to run an 11:11 in boots, and I think I ran like 11:09, and then I puked. I was like, was like not ready for this. And there was a dude that ran a 7:48 mile and a half
Wow, in boots.
in boots. And I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? You know? But that guy 3 weeks later was gone. And I was still there. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, you know. But you know, like physically I was not ready and I tore my ACL. And at that time I was like, hey, like I'm gonna go back, but I was at the end of my enlistment. And my wife at the time, now ex-wife, she was going through pilot school in the Air Force to, you know, eventually she became a U-28 pilot. But I was like, hey, what's the natural progression here? I just got out, and then I went into the Air Force recruiting office, and I was like, hey, what's Air Force Special Forces? What do they got? They got controllers and they got PJs. And I was like, what's controllers? It's like, oh, you know, they talk to on radio. I'm not talking to anybody. I have a fucking accent. I sound like Borat. What else you got? It's like, oh, we got PJs. They're medical. I was like, oh, that works for me. I'm medical. I can do that. Sign me up. So I think March of 2010, I was full into the pararescue pipeline.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything happens for a reason. I mean,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
would not be where you are today without that. But you took some good
Yeah.
lessons from that from Buds.
Definitely. Definitely. Like, I'm happy that I'm a pararescue man, temperament wise. I'm definitely like a para. It took me like a lot of like self searching and self like awareness to understand why all these things happened to me. Also, when I got out, I went to the Honor Foundation and they kind of ask you like why, what's your why, you know? And going back, I was thinking like, why did I really want to do this special forces thing? Why I always felt like pushed to do it? And the conclusion that I came to was like, you know, the the experiences that I had when I was a child of, you know, this the securitate coming to the house and being afraid and all these things. I felt like I never wanted to feel like that. So I was like, what's, you know, what's the most competent, what's the most like badass guy that would never feel like that? You know, you watch movies in the 90s like Rambo, Arnold, all that. It's like, hey, like, yeah, I gotta be a special operator, you know? So that's what kind of eventually thinking about it, that's what drove me into this line of work in a sense.
You know, I just did Eddie Gallagher's
Mm-hmm.
podcast. Actually, I'm going back tomorrow to finish up because we went
That's
so
awesome.
long.
That is awesome.
Eddie's a great guy, but I almost said something very similar about why I wanted to get into special operations. One, I wanted to be able to like I want to be the protector
Yeah.
because I couldn't protect myself as a kid. I couldn't protect like family, so I always wanted to be that like that guy that could
Yeah.
do that. And that's something that's always
I
attracted
agree.
me to like being any type of special operations. Um, yeah, similar thing.
I think it's like a general theme for guys that get into this. Um, yeah, and it kind of like obviously gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. And for me, being a SEAL would have been great, but like being a pararescue man is even greater because I'm here to help. Every time there's a situation that's fucked up, I'm here to save people's lives and I'm here to like make an impact on that. Or I'm here to, you know, like if there's a mass casualty scenario, I'm the calm one that needs to figure it out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that has been very like empowering over my whole life in a sense, you know, starting from like the beginning of my deployments to all the way to mass casualties with like 30, 40 people in Somalia kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you became a PJ because if you didn't, I wouldn't have got to know you.
Right. Yeah.
We wouldn't have got
So,
to do. I mean, I've seen you do your thing, and I mean, it's incredible. I got to play PJ for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and I see why you do it because when you
yeah.
rescue people, I mean, it's at their like darkest point in their life.
Yeah.
It's very just impactful on your life.
And yeah, it's always felt great to like, it feels great to help and to know that you've, you know, changed that person's life for the better and at their worst time, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I guess pretty shortly after that, that's when me and you linked up at STTS. I
yeah.
think that was in of 2011,
Yeah. 2011 ish.
2012, something like that. We linked up. We knocked out that last bit of training together. Me, you, Titang, and Phil. Great PJs.
Yeah.
All or Phil didn't go to the unit with us. No, he did. Yeah, he did go 2-3 with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Um,
And Alex.
and Alex, yeah,
He's a doctor
doctor
now.
now,
Yeah, yeah.
doctor
So
Doctor Alex.
it's great.
One of my I remember one of the funnest experiences I had with you at STTS was when we did the nighttime free fall at 18,000 feet. And I just remember
Yeah.
thinking like that ramp opened up, and I was like, "This." We did it 18,000 foot that daytime, but this was now we're
Yeah,
doing it at
that's good.
night, and we're full gear, ruck, oxygen mask. And I just remember Phil was like fist bumping, and he was like, "Let's go, boys," or whatever. And I just remember looking at as that ramp. I was like, "Man, this is wild. I can't believe we're like one, we're being paid to do this, but
Yeah,
I can't
it's
believe like we're just doing this so casually."
been great.
It was some good times there in
I
training. And
agree.
then we went to team together. Um, I still have that photo of us when we did that jump in. They told us we were actually flying to South America for because we were on alert.
Hmm.
Um, they put us in C-17, and they said we were
Oh
going to South
yeah.
America for like a real world mission. And then we jumped out of Avon Park.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
remember that.
I don't know if you guys are part of it, but that's when I was on Silver. So I don't know if they didn't tell you guys, but the Silver was on alert. So we actually thought we were flying to South America to like jump in. And I remember some of the older guys were like, "This seems a little
It's so
weird."
fishy.
And then I never been to Avon Park. And then when we jumped out, I remember everyone was just like, "This is Avon
Oh,
Park."
oh yeah, yeah. You know what? I remember that because that was one of my shittiest experiences I've ever had. Because you guys jump all out, you take care of the runway and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're like, PJ, well, we don't really have a use for you, so you're gonna jump last, and you just put the light all the way at the end of the runway, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So we jump out, and Avon Park was like flooded, and I was all the way at the end. I think the runway's like what 3,800 feet there or something, like 5,800 feet,
Oh,
something like
I think
something
I think
ridiculous,
it's like 10,000 feet. It's big.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. So I jump out and I land, and I land in basically 4 feet of water. And besides that, the water where I landed, there must have been like some kind of like ant, like like how the ants make like a little floating boat.
Yeah.
So I landed on that. And I'm like, what's going on? I have ants all over me. I'm wading through the water, trying to get this freaking light at the end of the runway. And then everybody basically forgot about the PJ. So I had to run back to the hangar by myself. It took me like an hour.
I did not
Eventually,
know
somebody
this.
was like, "Where's Paul?" And they actually came and like picked me up with the quad. But it was like literally like just like 45 to like an hour later. It's pretty miserable.
That's
But
funny.
great, but great.
Yeah, no, that's
I was
funny.
like, thanks, guys.
That's
That was a
funny.
great experience.
I didn't know about the
Mhm.
floating ants. That's good.
Yeah, and the whole time I just like bit. It's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Oh, that's funny. And then so from there you did I think 4 more deployments as a PJ. And you actually I think your first one was commando rotation.
Yeah, all my rotations were commando rotations pretty much. My first deployment was in 2014. I actually replaced Frank Troiano,
Yeah.
and the first mission we kind of did together, which was like super chill. We went down south, and we just gave candy out, pencils out, whatever, and we just did a KLE. My second mission was I landed on top of a mountain with RPGs, flying across the helicopters and straight into an 8-hour firefight. The Charlie on the team passed away, and then I had to treat 4 Afghan commandos on that rotation, on that mission
Yeah.
specifically. And I think we shut down Afghanistan for 6 weeks because the C-130 had to go self-defense and dropped like 50 shells on the compound that was strongholded for us. So
I'm pretty sure I remember the briefing and all of that. Is that the one with Rob Parra?
no, it was with Josh uh, Millard, who's TAC P,
Big bald dude.
really stoic Josh
Yeah.
Millard
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
and then Josh Parman. Those
Parman.
were my two
That's
controllers
what I
on
thought.
that. Yeah,
Parman.
Parman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge deal. Yeah, I think Josh did a whole back brief on that, and It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I
We were
remember.
playing like hand grenade volleyball with the Afghans for about like an hour and a half. So
I remember that in the brief. They were downhill. Enemy had the high position, and they were
yeah, I was
throwing the
downhill.
grenades.
It was like a little terrace. So they had like about it was like a huge compound on top, and we were basically working our way up, and they had strongholded the whole compound. And once we got up, we were just below one terrace below the compound, and I think there were about like 20 dudes inside, and they were trying to like flank us, and that's when the C-130 went like self-defense and basically dropped a whole bunch of ordnance on them, and we had to like basically cower under next to the terrace because it was I think it was like 13 meters away or 50 meters away.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's wild.
that
Was
was
it
my second mission as a PJ.
drop off fires, man?
Yeah,
That's
so
that's
then
wild.
after that, they basically destroyed the whole compound. Everybody was injured, so I called the PJs, like the RQS over, and we hoisted up about four Afghans,
Oh wow.
and then the Charlie was actually on the other side of the mountain that we had to hoist up as well. They passed away.
Were you the only PJ on that one?
Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's crazy.
Yep.
Were the rest of the missions, the rest of that deployment, were they that way, or are they
Yeah,
more?
like that deployment was pretty spicy. I had actually had green and blue with six guys that
Oh
passed away with Parman. Yeah, we had a lot of missions actually. Then that first deployment was pretty rough in a
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, that's
So
wild. And then three more after that, all the same. You said commando.
yeah, they're all commando. One was with the CRIF in Germany, so I did a lot of like flying back and forth to Africa, which wasn't neither here or there. Was mostly training and stuff. And then the other ones were commando. I pretty much deployed like almost every year from 2014 to 18, and then in 19 I got out as a J and
Yeah,
started doing the contracting stuff.
yeah, the contracting stuff. I remember. So it's pretty much the same thing as a civilian now. But I think you told me you did more PJ work that first year as a civilian than you
I
did like active duty.
I did, yeah. So it was like contract personnel rescue. It was both in Kenya and Somalia. Uh, we had we started it was pretty small. We just had two helicopters and a fixed wing, and we would fly basically at the borders of Somalia and kind of engage with um, Al Shabaab over there. Most of the time, it was just picking up, indigenous guys, but uh, ended up picking up also a SEAL that got hurt there and going all the way from Somalia to Kenya and then from Kenya to Germany, flying him out. So
Wow.
he was intubated and all this stuff. So take care of that. It was mostly like it was a PJ position with the helicopter, and then it was kind of like a flying medic on the fixed wing. So we would do both.
Yeah.
There's 8 of us, then we would switch off between the rotor wing and the fixed wing. So that eventually became a pretty big contract, which is called, I think, the press contract now. But we used to be in Kenya, in Camp Simba, and then from there we moved on to actually Mogadishu proper and started doing like stuff over there.
That
So
was Mogadishu.
it's fun. It's exactly what you would expect. It's like the wild, wild, I guess, East, you'd say, Africa. But yeah, there's still crazy stuff going on over there that obviously I can't really talk about all of it. But
Yeah.
I've had since then, so since 2019, I did that 2019 to 2024, end of 2024. I've had like probably 4 or 5 mass casualties
Mm.
where there are about like 30 to probably 40 like Somalis that were, you know, dead or
Yeah.
dying. Uh,
Is that from V beds or
yeah, from
V?
various like engagement, VBITs, all kinds of stuff. It's Wild Wild West there. I think as part of their TTPs is sometimes they actually put IEDs in trees, and then they have them connected with car alarms or some weird stuff where like they feel the vibration of the convoy passing by, and they spray the convoy from the tree. So dealing with that.
Oh wow.
Um, the last mass casualty that we had was about an hour and a half north of Mogadishu, and we flew in, and it was just me and another PJ that were on the ground. with about 120 Somalis, and we had about 30 casualties. So it was just me and him with nobody else. The helicopters were just kind of flying around, waiting for us to kind of figure the situation out. I ended up loading like 20 body bags into the helicopter,
Wow.
and we had about like 7 patients in the other helicopter taking care of it. Yeah. So
That's
that
wild.
was like a whole 4 years. That was basically that. And again, like very like the dichotomy of like doing that and then coming back home and just being a dad or like being a 30A. It's just kind of weird. So it's a very like adjustment. The adjustment's difficult.
I think a lot of people here in this area don't realize, like,
Yeah.
guys like you, like literally are gone for 3 months doing that, and then you're right here at the gym, going to the beach with your daughter,
Yeah,
going to
exactly.
local restaurants, and they just don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
they just know I look scary. That's
yeah, I mean, it's
it.
not like you go talk about it,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of guys in the area that
no,
live
definitely,
here and contract overseas
definitely. Yeah,
and do
it is a big
stuff.
contractor hub, I guess you would say.
It
Here.
is. Yeah, there's a lot of
So
ex-military that live here and stuff. Is Africa where you did or maybe you didn't, I don't, I think you did it. You did that cargo ship
we did, yeah.
hoist.
We did. We had a cargo ship hoist, and I'll send you pictures if you want to put them
Yeah,
up
we'll
later
post
as
that. It
well.
was really cool. It made
So
national news, I think.
I'm not, yeah,
It was on the
maybe
news. I
it,
remember
it was
seeing,
definitely
yeah.
on the news, yeah. But basically, it was a British ship, and there was a gentleman who had a heart attack on the ship, and it was about like I think an hour and a half flight out to get him. So we flew out. Actually, the CV-22s with PJs flew in, and they rappelled onto the ship and they took care of him. And then we came and hoisted him up and took him back to Kenya.
That's
So
cool.
it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we flew him from Camp Simba to Aga Khan, which is the hospital in Kenya. Yeah.
Yeah. He made it. He was all good.
Yeah, he was all good. He had a STEMI, but he was good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it was the Vegas guys, so they did a great job in taking care of him and stuff.
That's cool. And then let's see. At some point, the SMU came in and got involved.
Yeah,
I can't remember if it was actually maybe you telling me about it,
yeah. I think I
or
told you
I
about
think you
it. It
told me
was
about it.
through Brandon that I
Yeah.
found out about it, and I was like, "Hey, this kind of sounds cool. Let's see where."
Yeah.
It sounds like a cool side quest. Let's see
It's a
where
side
it
quest,
goes. Yeah,
exactly.
so
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
No, I was just happy that I was like, man, I was like, we're actually, I remember right before North Carolina, we had just finished up Florida, Helene,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were doing that training that day. The day before we went to North Carolina, and we were landing helicopters.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
me and you were taking some photos. I was like, dude, I was like, the boys are back together again.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's a weird trip, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
never thought, we'd be doing this, like going into our mid 30s and into 40s, like kind of getting back into this, but it's been fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I got out, I had some like weird experiences with militias in the sense, and I was talking to a friend at school right now, and he's like, "Yeah, my brother has joined this like really weird militia in Idaho, you know." And he's like, "What are they doing?" It's like, "Well, they're just doing weird militia stuff in the mountains." And I think like actually what DeSantis is doing here is great because he's like harnessing all that, you know, instead of having like all kind of weird militias with weird, ideologies or whatever. It's like, hey, no, like come join the Florida State Guard, be helpful to your community, and be an asset instead of like doing some weird stuff in the mountains by yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that, especially for the Florida State Guard, I think that's really important. And then for us, for the SMU, harnessing all of our, you know, expertise and all the mentorship to kind of guide that, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
So
No, that's cool. So I kind of want to talk about the baby a little bit because there's a part of this I actually don't know
okay, yeah,
because you were there on the ground when I was flying over in the
yeah,
helicopter. But I've said the story a lot, but I'll say it just kind of like quick little points on it. I was at the airfield. I was waiting for Zeb to come in with the helicopter. Charlie was doing the coordination with Lisa, the grandmother of the baby.
Mhm.
Charlie told me to put the address out in our chat for the SMU. And when I sent that out, I think you actually called me. I don't think you texted me. And you said, "I'm here in that town,"
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's Alexander, yeah, Alexander, North Carolina.
yeah.
Which on the map it was showing all the roads were washed away to that town, and you guys just randomly happened to drive into that town. Um,
Yeah.
at
We're,
anywhere
I
you could have
think
gone.
we were, so what happened there is that I think we're about like, when you send the address out, we're about like 10 minutes out of there. So I was like,
Okay.
hey, let's go there, right? As I was texting you, I didn't know exactly where, if we could get to the house. So we actually stopped at the firehouse, which was about like 3 minutes from the address where you were at.
Okay.
And we're like, hey, we got this message that there's a baby that is not doing well and he needs to be evacuated. Do you guys know where this family is at? And the firehouse chief came out and he's like, oh, yeah, I know exactly where that's at. Let's go over there.
Oh.
So then I was like, okay, like, let's go. We drove for about like 5 minutes and we got to the house and nobody was at the house. So we're like, this is kind of wrong. And that's when I called you. I'm like, hey, nobody's at the house. I don't know where they're at. So then you're like, hey, they're in the field in the back waiting
Yeah.
for us, right?
Charlie said they went to go find the HL, like an HLV place.
HLZ.
Yeah.
So what I did is I basically, from there, we walked through the field and then we found them on the other side of the field. I found the baby. He was very like cyanotic and kind of like non-responsive, and he was in a car. And I talked to the mom. I think it was 11-day old baby,
11.
right?
Yeah, it was 11.
So she was very new mom, and she looked very like panicked and frantic. And I was like, hey, I know this might sound strange, but your baby's a little not cyanotic, is patchy. I want you to kind of bother him, and I want you to like have him cry. So I want him to like take big breaths, and I want him to kind of know him. So I want him to be alive, not like just very sleepy and very non-responsive. So she's like, I'm not sure. And I'm just like, hey, just please, help me out. I guarantee you that I'm trying to do the best for you, right? So we kind of bothered the baby a little bit. And then I had Byron actually like, hey, can you help me out? Can you take care of the baby while I go talk to the firehouse chief? And we don't have portable oxygen, and that's really what the baby needed. So we're like, hey, I need you to go right now or call your ambulance, and I need you to get this baby on oxygen ASAP because that's really what he needs. Because they can't really help him out with anything else. I think he had you know, a congenital issue that I wasn't super familiar with at the time. So I'm like, hey, all I want to do is I want to get the baby ready for transport. From there, I basically set up the HOZ, standard, PZ posture. I had them
Mm-hmm.
all stay, all line up, and then I had the mom and the baby just sit in the car until the helicopter came down, so they wouldn't get like frazzled by the noise and all this stuff. And then I just I had all the guys go and get that done. And I kind of stayed back. That's why you never see me in the pictures because I kind of stayed back and I just walked. I think the grandma was there or like the mom was there. I walked her to the helicopter
Yeah.
as the last thing and said bye to you, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, you actually gave me a little brief, a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
quick medical, like
The
what.
mist.
Yeah, you gave me a little report
Yeah,
on what was going on. Then I remember like hugging each other.
yeah,
And then it was just like in the helicopter going.
yeah.
Um,
So
that was I'm actually like replaying everything in my head right now how that went down. But that was an experience that I mean we'll never forget that. It was
yeah, I agree.
it was wild. I didn't know that about how the fire chief. I thought, yeah, I got that whole. I've been saying that story wrong, basically. So it's good to know the story on that.
We should talk about it before.
That's the thing, like, because you guys were at where you're at, I was over here this side with
Yeah,
aerial recovery, so I wasn't linking up with you guys, and because I was flying out with Zeb in the helicopter, I wasn't seeing you guys like on a daily
yeah,
basis, and then everything just kind of just got pushed to the right with everything, and then Milton happened,
yeah. It's
and
back to back to back
yeah, I just got
missions.
push, 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 push. So I never actually had a chance to like kind of like debrief and
Yeah.
talk with you on this. So it's good to hear.
I think that was a great experience, with like what we rarely slept. We slept like probably 2 3 hours a night, and we're just all over the place trying to help out, trying to get into like the craziest places that we could get into. I think this whole SMU concept is really good, especially if we do like a excuse me like a two-man team, like I did with in the next hurricane with Max
Hmm. Yeah.
in Tampa. So we had
Actually, let's get that photo up, Randy. Remind me. That's a really cool photo of Max
oh yeah, save
holding that kid.
holding a kid. Yeah,
Yeah, walking through a flood.
yeah. So like after all that happened, and I think this kind of like solidifies the concept of the SMU as like be kind of being there first and also kind of managing the disaster and managing the situation. So we're called to this neighborhood, which was actually only like 5 miles away from where I used to live.
Hmm.
This neighborhood was just in between two lakes, and the pump from one lake, because of all the water, the the lake level went too high, so the pump just distributed the water into the other lake, and by doing so, just flooded the whole neighborhood that was in between the two lakes. Right, so the two lakes connected. It was about like 4 to 6 feet of water everywhere, and we basically got there first. It was just Max and I, and like, okay, we got to figure this out. We got a canoe from one of the guys that was over there, and we started going around the neighborhood, and we did kind of like accountability. Let's see how many people we have in each house, how many people they want to leave. Uh, and then from there, we actually called in the Florida State Guard, who had this big fat boy tire,
Yeah,
like
I forgot what those things are called, but yeah,
me
they're
either,
cool.
but they're super cool. And they just kind of started going from house to house, and we directed all of that. And we had actually the fire chief of Tampa came down as well, and he like seemed very overwhelmed. He was like, "Hey, like I've been going back to back to these kind of calls, and I don't really have anybody to help." And we're like, "No worries, we got it." And he's like, "Well, okay, like you guys seem competent. You seem like you know what you're doing." And yeah, we took care of all of it. I think we evacuated about like 30 people,
Wow.
about like
Yeah.
14 kids. So
I remember
that's pretty cool.
when I saw that message come through the chat about the neighborhood was flooding because this was probably like 4 or 5 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon. And I remember me and Ken were together as a 2 man team, and we were like, this doesn't make sense. The hurricane's already passed. The sun's out.
Yeah, exactly.
We were
It
like, I
makes
don't
sense to us.
understand how the neighborhood's just now starting
Flooding.
to
Yeah.
flood.
It's because the pump had started pumping water into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's why.
And then when you guys sent the photos, we were just like, what?
Yeah, it was like
Like,
completely unexpected. Like,
yeah. We almost thought it was like a fake report
yeah, yeah,
because it just we're like, no, we drove through Tampa already. We went through
yeah.
Sarasota and St. Pete, so it just wasn't making sense. But yeah, I mean, it makes
It just shows
perfect
like the
sense.
third order effects of like a disaster. Sometimes like, yeah, maybe you don't have the hurricane didn't do that much damage, but there's also like all the water,
Yeah,
everything, and like infrastructure is not that great or whatever, and so weird stuff happens.
and those people basically got trapped because they weren't expecting. Who knew that pump was going to
Yeah,
fail?
exactly.
So they didn't know that was going to happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was wild. Speaking of North Carolina stuff, I actually don't know what all you guys were doing. I mean, I know you're doing rescues and
Hmm.
picking up people, but I've never actually heard this side of the story, what you guys were doing. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think the main mission for the SMU was to do welfare checks for Florida residents or for a family of Florida residents.
Yeah.
So we kind of I think DeSantis set up, or Florida set up a whole call center where people be like, hey, I have a family member who's in this town in the Appalachian Mountains, and I haven't heard from him in like 3 days. So our mission was to go check for all of that. I think it was called like Blue Ridge, right?
Operation Blue Ridge.
Operation
Yep.
Blue Ridge, right? So we did that, and through doing that, we actually ended up in some pretty interesting communities where they were completely isolated. So what we ended up doing was we would either hike in or have quads and quad in, or towards the end, once all the stuff went down with you, we started getting a lot more resources, and we actually get helicopters in 60s, and we ended up just flying into different communities. and see what they needed, you know. And from there, we also thought about, now we have like Starlinks, so we can basically, if that happens again, we can come into a community, set up a Starlink that's on my back on an Alice Rock pack with a little nice battery pack, and now we can give internet to everyone and say, hey, like contact all your loved ones and you'll be good to go. And then also set up, resupply runs for water and for food and for everything that they needed. I have pictures of that too. I can send them. I
Yeah,
can
no,
send them
that'd be
to you.
good. I remember I would see him like in the chat coming through and
Yeah.
stuff, but yeah, because I mean, y'all did that until Hurricane Milton. Same,
Yeah.
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 So that
So
was that a week and a half we were there?
yeah, it was like back to back. So it
Yeah,
was kind of a strange time.
yeah. No, actually, I think you were one of the first people that contacted me when my video was going kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like at the
Yeah.
initial stages, I think you said something like, "Hey, man, like people are talking about it," and I think I had just came off the helicopter, so I didn't realize it yet. And then I was just like, "Oh, like
I was really impressed how that got handled in a sense. You know what I mean? Like it like worked out really well for the SMU and for you and for everyone. So
it
I
did.
thought it was
It
good.
did what it was intended to do. I didn't, not that I knew it could go that big, but I mean, it brought help to the
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
It
It brought
brought
help and visibility.
helicopters,
So
it brought resources, it brought eyeballs, um, a ton of resources. It brought help. That's what it was intended to do. Because I don't want to go down this tangent on it because I want to talk about you. But when people kind of like asked what my thought process was on that video, and I was like, it was just life, limb, or eyesight. That's
yeah,
what it was. And at that point, to me, it was life. It wasn't like limb or eyesight. It was like these people need immediate help right now.
yeah,
And the only way to get immediate help right now is to basically bypass all the proper channels of
exactly.
of chain of command, and like I have to get this video out here to help these people because if not, they're literally going to die.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was like the point where I was like, I got to do it. I don't know if I've ever said this, but when I uploaded the video, um, Charlie was like, "Hey, helicopter's like ready to go." So I was uploading it on a Starlink in Marion,
Yeah, that's
and then I disconnected from it because we had to go. And when I got in the helicopter, it was only like maybe 60% like uploaded.
uploaded. So
I remember seeing like uploading on Instagram, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna delete it. I was like, I don't know if I really
yeah,
want to put this out
mhm.
there. I was like, maybe I just need to sit on it, like set, and then maybe re-upload it, or maybe like film it when I'm calmer. I'm not angry because I knew I was cursing a lot in that video. And then I think maybe the service went away or something. I can't remember, but we went out and did like I think 2 missions, and then I came back and it uploaded. And at this point, it only had a couple of likes. But I remember seeing one of my friend's cat I went to law school with. She just got married to my friend Frank, but she had shared it. She said, "My friend John needs help." And I was looking at it and I was like, well, no one's saying anything negative. No one's like, oh, look at
Yeah,
this a hole or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. I was like, you know what? I'll just let it sit
No, that's
still. And then we went out and did more missions, came back, and then I was like, oh, it's
true.
starting to go a little big here.
That's pretty
And
funny.
then
Yeah,
I think
that's right.
maybe later on, I think you met, you're like, hey, like team's kind of talking about it right now. And I was a little nervous. I was like, oh, are they like mad or like what are they saying? But it worked. It worked out. Worked out really good. Um, yeah. So North Carolina, then we did Milton down in Florida. Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else we could talk on that. Anything I'm missing on there that you can think of that you guys were doing out there in Carolina that you
Uh,
want to talk about?
no, nothing else that I want to like really get into, honestly. Like
Okay.
it's the SME is still like very at its inception and it needs to be developed,
Yeah.
so hopefully it's gonna get more traction, and it's very important who we're gonna, let in and who we want to work with, right? So for me, it's really important, like being professional and also just being able to always. I don't like that frantic energy that is obviously really common in an emergency situation. So I want characters that can always, you know, put that out with their, character, with their, like if there's an emergency, I want to bring that energy down and I want to be the guy that's being an asset and solving stuff, not the guy that's making more problems.
Yeah.
So, and that I think comes from, being a PJ, Africa, all that stuff. So I don't want to be biased with anybody that we like let in, but that's the kind of men that I want. Like controllers, everybody's been in war, all this stuff. And you don't necessarily need to be, special operations or anything to be like that, but we definitely need to develop um, a selection process that selects for those kind of men, in my opinion. So
Yeah. A calm demeanor during crises.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
So.
for sure. Let's talk about the NBA you're going after, man. Because I think you've been at it for a few months now.
I started in January. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that started. I was in Africa, right? I was making pretty good money as a contractor, but
very good actually.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, and also I was not paying taxes on it, so it's even better. But I was gone 3 months on, 3 months off, and it was really affecting my daughter. Like she started having separation anxiety. She started like acting up and stuff because I was never around. And I'm like, hey, like how I was like, really like squeezing my head, trying to figure out how can I move into something that will make me an equal amount of money and will allow me to be home, right? So we're talking in like the 200s kind of range, right? So, and also keeping like my quality of life the same, right? So, doing research and stuff, that's really the only thing that I could see that was a viable like line of like a logical line to follow. So I applied. I did my executive assessment basically, which is a test that you have to take. While I was in Africa, I finished my bachelor's in business management and leadership. So I tried to like really not waste time while I was there. Obviously we're like doing PJ stuff, so we're always on the hook for stuff, but the day to day wasn't like nonstop work, right? So I had some free time. So I put that free time into getting an education. And then from there, I applied to several M7 business schools, which are, the top 7 business schools. So it's Kellogg, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, all of those. And Kellogg ended up calling me first. I did I did like 3 interviews with them, and it was a pretty good interview process. And then um, I think it was like around November that I found out that I was accepted into it,
nice.
and started this January. But I've been like like really harping on guys to go that route because it seems like a natural progression if you're a special operations guy who wants to still make a difference, wants to be in charge, and it doesn't matter like you obviously run a business, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a mass casualty scenario or if it's some kind of financial situation. You want guys that bring the room, that cool the room down, that have good communication skills, and that can run stuff right in your business everywhere. So I think it's just a natural progression for an operator who wants to keep learning and keep advancing with their knowledge in a sense.
Mhm. And with
So
the NBA, I'm guessing this is probably going to lead a little bit into XPJ, or is there like a certain goal with the NBA, or just for personal self?
but just for personal self, because I now going through it, I realize how like not poorly educated, but like how my biases and how I think has affected a lot of my career decisions, and I could have made them better. The MBA does help with that, and also yeah, learning for XPJ, learning you know managing the books, all that stuff, but mostly like the network part. I think the network part is the most important thing, and like I hate to like go and then your network is your net worth in a sense, but I'm starting to realize that a lot more, and also just um, I don't want to say this like I'm a pretty private person, and I've never like I'm not because of all these experiences and how I was raised. I've always tried to kind of keep to myself, and now I'm realizing that that's kind of been a mistake in a sense. Partly why I'm also here, just trying to uh, correct that deficiency,
Hmm.
and also putting myself in positions where I'm uncomfortable because that's what I used to do as a PJ. That's what I used to do all the time. So I don't see why I wouldn't just keep going, you know. I'm
Yeah.
not just because I got out or just because I'm, retired or whatever doesn't mean that I'm going to stop being hungry for new experiences or for more learning or anything, So
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
Now you're like a lot of guys in the career field. They're private. They're quiet. They don't want to be on social media. I remember even I think I tagged you
On
on the
the
baby
yeah,
post, and
took me off.
you were like take me off. You're like don't
Yeah.
tag me. You're like I don't want no credit. And
That's
I
right.
was like no man, I'm like dude, like you literally saved that baby.
Yeah.
And you were like no man, like you're like I do this all the time as PJ. Like I don't want no credit for this. And I was just
Well, I
like
think like there's on the flip side of that, there's like tons of paramedics everywhere that save babies all the time,
yeah
you know, and the circumstances were very extreme in that, but at the same time, it's really a daily occurrence that happens, So it's kind of like the circumstances were amazing, and we did save that baby, but it's not like it happens every day in a sense.
yeah
We just flew him out in a hurricane situation where they're all isolated. You know what I mean?
yeah
So that's I thought that was the part that should be highlighted, not the fact that like giving a baby oxygen is pretty standard. So
yeah. And with XPJ, that's been going on for 2 years now.
actually about a year and a half. It's been going well. So yeah, we do, like I said, we do executive protection and stuff. We've been having some pretty big clients. Uh, I kind of set up, it's a bunch of us. It's Tony, it's Romo, all those guys. But we kind of set up XPJ the same as an SDS. So I didn't want to go into the executive protection industry and be like, hey, look at us. We're really we're really cool. You should hire us as your executive protection team, right? Because now we're just entering into the space competing with all the agencies already. What I wanted to do is I wanted to provide value to those companies. So it's like, hey, you have an executive protection agency, right? But I have guys who are paramedics and I have my medical director. So all you need to do is you put my guy on your team, and now you don't need an ambulance, and you have another executive protection agent, and you have medical direction. So if something happens to whatever principal, what he gets shot, whatever, he falls down, was skiing, breaks his leg, my guy is right there. You can take care of him, and you're covered, right? So now I'm not trying to compete with you to try to steal the security detail from you. I'm adding value to your security detail.
Hmm.
That's kind of like how we saw that, and that's kind of like how we're running that. So
No, I think that's really cool
yeah,
and much needed. And then besides that executive protection, you talked about Haiti earlier. So there's those kind
yeah,
of missions as well.
yeah. So we had some evacuation missions. The Haiti mission was really cool. So like I said, Crisis had this gentleman who had fallen off a roof, and he actually fell on his head, and he was in Port-au-Prince, like in a house in Port-au-Prince, and like a random Haitian doctor was taking care of him, right? So they've called several companies trying to figure out how to get him out of there, and nobody wanted to take the risk. They called me and Tony on Sunday, like probably like 8 or so on Sunday, and I got lucky because Max, controller
Yeah.
Max, was in Haiti for 2 months. So again, like really strong network, controller network. Anywhere there's planes landing, there's probably like a controller there, right? So Max happened to work in Haiti for 2 months, and he had made really good connections. within the Haitian FAA government, whatever. And I called them up. I was like, hey, can you get us? Because the most difficult thing about going into Haiti is getting the clearances to land in Haiti, right? So I called them up and I was like, hey, can you get us clearances? Like, yeah, I can get you clearances in like 2 hours. I'm like, solid. And then uh, I just we just as XPJ booked our own air ambulance. I personally drove down from here, from Dustin to Tampa, and got on a plane at 7 o'clock in the morning. Was there by 10. I, kind of once I once we landed, I got into a Haitian Uber and went into Port-au-Prince. Kind of figured the guy out, did an assessment, and then got put him in a van, snuck through Port-au-Prince, and then snuck him out to the airport and flew him out.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's
He had
pretty
a
cool.
broken neck, broken back.
Yeah, he was full quadriplegic. Like
Oh wow.
he could not feel anything from basically like his nipples down.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
And for some strange reason, he was Romanian. So
Really?
yeah, I ended up talking to him in Romanian. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, that's one.
You keep in contact with him, or
No, I
Yeah.
haven't heard from him. I think they flew him back to Romania, and yeah, I haven't really
that's wild.
followed up on that.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of because I thought you said maybe you guys were doing a medevac over to Europe. Was that the same?
Yeah,
line?
so they're thinking about how we can do that. I think the insurance, like basically the insurance company covered the extrication or the evacuation costs, and then once we flew them into Boward, Fort Lauderdale,
Oh yeah, Ballard County.
yeah, Boward. We flew them in there, and then like the insurance company took over from there, and Crisis took over from there.
Yeah.
I had a fall on mission that that kind of brought a little bit of publicity to us, and I had a fall on mission to possibly help out with evacuating 10 German citizens from Lebanon. So ended up doing the whole planning to fly the air ambulance from here all the way to Cyprus, and then basically stay in Cyprus. And if something would happen, we would fly into Lebanon. And if we couldn't fly with Lebanon, again, my CCT connections worked out really well. There happened to be a CCT guy at the airport in Lebanon that was managing all the air, and they also had uh, an evacuation plan that involved boats. So he's like, "Hey, if you need to evacuate the citizens, we can do it through your boat, through my boats." And I was like, "That's dope. Let's do it." But that never actually ended up happening. So
I think that's one of the coolest things about what we do like, in the
yeah,
job. It's the networking, it's the connections. Because like anywhere we can go, we can just post on our social media or put in a group chat like, "Hey, do we have any guys here?"
exactly.
And someone would be like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm randomly here," and you're
Yeah,
like, "Oh
great, I need this."
yeah."
I'm like, all right, cool.
I mean, even if I'm
So-
just going like on a vacation somewhere, I think I remember a couple years ago when me and Riz went to Philippines. I said something. I don't know if it was you or someone. They're like, "Oh, there's actually a PJ living over there now.
Yeah,
He's like doing work or whatever." They're like, "Yeah, hit him up." And I was like, "No kidding." And there's just like everyone's just scattered everywhere.
yeah, I find it's really cool. There's definitely PJs, expats all over
Everywhere.
that are like always welcoming, and it's cool to be in this community. So I really appreciate it, and that's why I want to make one of the reasons I'm here is also because like I really want to push for all this veteran stuff, all guys getting out. I want to show that there's tons of opportunity. Even like with the MBA and going into tech jobs, going into business jobs that pay really well. Like you just have to obviously have a good network and also be hungry for it. You know, the same reasons why you got into pararescue or special forces or whatever. When you get out, there is that loss of identity, or I lost, like my crew, or I lost, like the beret was everything. It's not. It's part of you, but it shouldn't be your whole, being. There's tons of opportunity there, and you can still make a difference, and you can still, you know, be successful. You shouldn't just constantly look back and constantly be stuck in like the team years.
Yeah.
So that's
Is
my
that
opinion.
that's where you were talking about earlier? You're going to go help with the Honor Foundation.
Yeah. When I got out, I was pretty messed up when I got out. Divorce, all the stuff. Obviously, the deployments were rough, um, and also the contracting was rough. Always being gone. So in between there, I took the Honor Foundation, and it's a great TAPS program, so transition program for veterans. But like, I wasn't ready to like receive the information right because I was too messed up. So now I just kind of want to go back, and I'll just basically kind of just relay my story. I'm like, hey, I know exactly how you guys feel. I was there, but there's the light at the end of the tunnel. And if I can help, please contact me and I'll try to do anything I can to help, So
Yeah.
just to pass it on.
No, that's awesome,
So,
man. That's really good stuff. Now, one thing about you, Paul, is I always say you're one of my wisest friends I have. You just think differently. You're one of those
thank
few people. Maybe it's because we're both Geminis.
you. Right.
We've had a lot of conversations just sitting outside at night. Just I can.
Yeah.
You're one of those people. I say talk. You're one of those people I can listen to for hours without saying a word.
I
Because like
appreciate
I
it.
genuinely enjoy the things you talk about, and it's not just normal casual conversation. You're not talking about what's happening in the news with celebrities or this. Like a lot of historical stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that probably comes from your reading, which you actually got me into reading books. I remember even Rish, she was like, "Why are you reading that?" She's like, "Man, you've been hanging out with Paul too much." But like, you have a very big library collection of
I do,
books, and you'll even hand me books sometime. You'll be like, "Here, check this book
yeah.
out," and I really enjoy that. But what books are you reading right now? Because I know you are.
Well, right now I'm like knees deep into
NBA,
yeah,
yeah.
analytical approach to uncertainty at the moment. And yeah. But um one of my favorite books that I've read the past year has been Odysseus and the Oar,
Mhm.
which I think is written by, if I'm not wrong, Adam Metzger, I think his name is. Or please look it up. We'll put it
We'll
up.
post it. We'll
We'll
post that.
post it. But
Yeah.
Odysseus and the Oar, and I have a personal affinity to history and especially like European history and philosophy and stuff. So the Odyssey has had like a major impact in my life and how I view life. And I've seen, it talks about that book specifically talks about veterans with PTSD and how uh, old Greek philosophy and how Odysseus specifically as an archetype uh, can help with PTSD, with finding new meaning in life, and with returning home in a sense, because for me, like that's a very personal story. I can make some anecdotes if you want, but let's say part of this was a Troy for 10 years, right? There was a war for 10 years. We've kind of done the GWAT thing for 10 years, 20 years. So afterwards, he's returning home, right? What does he do? He gets lost for like 10 out of 10 years, and for me, that was very. I because I felt like that when I got out, and the first one of the first things that happened to Odysseus is he's stuck in a cave with the Cyclops, right? And you can like make the allegory to this in the sense of what's the Cyclops really? The Cyclops is that mentality, that really like myopic, one focused monster that you had to have when you're at war, right? You just have to like do your job, whether it's like, dropping bombs, saving people, whatever. You're like very one minded into that, or else you're not going to survive, right? So, what happens when you're done with the war and you're stuck in a cave with this huge monster? What do you have to do? What does Odysseus do? He blinds it, and then he tells him that he's nobody, right? In the sense of like, hey, like he lets go of that identity, and then what happens after that? He gets lost at sea for 10 fucking years, right? Because now he doesn't. really know who he is anymore, and he has to go through all these trials and tribulations to finally eventually get home, to return home, you know. And I thought that was like, to me, that spoke to me in like great lengths, and it was really important. So
Yeah, I've seen you share that one a lot, and you'll pull
yeah,
out little like these passages of it
yeah.
and talk
So
about it on and stuff.
and I feel like it's very relatable to all the veterans that are going through this. So
Didn't the guy that write that, wasn't he a Green Beret?
no, yeah, I think he was an infantry. He
Infantry?
was an infantry guy. Yeah, but he went on to he's a counselor, and he did a lot of Jungian philosophy, which it deals with a lot of like archetypes and deals with a lot of mm, you know, some people would say wazoo stuff, but archetypical psychology in a sense.
Okay.
So depth psychology.
Yeah.
That's correct
No, I
phrasing.
want to read that one because I've seen you post it.
It's really good.
I need to
It's
buy
really
it and read it because I've seen you actually. I think I've seen Byron.
Byron
Byron's
has
post
calf
it.
tattoos of that,
That's
but he
right.
didn't really know what it is.
Oh.
But at the end of the Odyssey, Odysseus's job, which is given by the the gods, is to get an oar and plant it somewhere where people have never seen it, in a sense. So it's to bring that wisdom to the next generation in that sense. And that's actually why you have this
Oh, the
all the
battle.
way back from
Mm,
3,000 years ago.
no kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yep. That's exactly why you have that.
Did not realize that. I should grab that. I don't think they can't see that on camera. I don't think. Everyone gets one of these when you leave the teams or whatever. You can, I was like, you can see it there or whatever. But this is what he's talking about. Have it hanging on the wall. I didn't realize that's actually kind of the reason why.
Yeah. And there's a lot of those small warriorship stuff like this that nobody really realizes, but I find extremely interesting. Yeah.
No, that's cool, and that makes me want to read it more. So that was a great breakdown of that. What's give me one more book. If you had an all time book for someone, a new guy to go read, new gal, new girl.
Uh, I mean, honestly, the Iliad and the Odysseys are like my like I don't know, Old Testament and New Testament in a sense. I think the Iliad covers really good like how war affects you and all the different types of people that you see during war. You see the hyper aggressive guys, you see, and how to deal with all those. And then also the Odyssey is like, what do you have to do to kind of come back and reintegrate into society and just be, normal again in a sense.
That's good.
So those are my two obviously favorite books, but I'm a huge nerd when it comes to philosophy. So Plato, Socrates, all that. So
no, you have like a library of books. Literally, it's
Yeah.
it's super. I actually remember when we were shopping for your house. I think like one of these like this would be like the library room.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, a little man cave library book room.
I like the whole idea of being like a cultured savage,
Yeah.
in the sense, like I can be in the MBA room and I can, do analytical uncertainty, and I can, go do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or I can go like, in the shoot house with the guys. So I like, I feel like extending that, it makes you a more complete man. Speaking of books, okay, I would suggest everybody to read Musashi, which is the account of Musashi's rise as one of the samurais who I think has had 29 or 39 duels from the time he was 13 to the time he was 29. And he just like, single-handed 1 versus 1.
Wow.
And it's kind of like a mythopoetic like rise of the samurai, but it really highlights the mind of a true like master at its craft. That's just through becoming like a soldier or becoming like a samurai, but you can take that and you know be great at what it doesn't matter what it is. Be great real estate, great video editing, great everything, but that mindset you can take everywhere. And that's what I stress with with all the veterans. You know, like there's never, you should never. There might be plateaus or there might be stagnant times in your life, but you should always try to get out of those. You know,
Hmm.
so
That's good. I think we're kind of wrapping up here, but I got a few things I usually do at the end is what do you think the next 2 years looks like for you?
for me, I actually obviously finishing up school, and then I just picked up a job to a tech firm, which is Elastic AI.
Hmm.
So I will be getting into AI. I was at school and I was kind of learning about this concept, which is the efficiency frontier, which is basically like, let's say you have two stocks. They are the same amount of money, but one has more risk than the other, but they will make you the same amount of money, right? You want the stock, and this seems pretty obvious. You want the stock that has less risk and the same return, right? So you can kind of chart, and there's companies that do this. You can kind of chart the whole efficiency frontier of stocks that are good or bad. Um, and you can kind of do this with everything in your life in a sense. And I just want to, I feel like I want to be at the efficiency frontier of my life in a sense, everywhere. So I feel like AI is like big and I just want to get into it and I just want to understand it better. So those are the two things that I'm like working for right now. And then also I just want to, help out as many veterans as I can into transitioning or into having that kind of Musashi Odysseus mind frame where framework of mind where they can succeed post military or in the SMU or wherever.
Yeah. No, this episode's actually
Yeah.
it'll help a lot of people. That's
So
pretty much why I do this show. I enjoy getting those messages from people. They're like, I need to hear that. Or I just did one on anti-hero
yeah,
where
I
I
saw that.
spoke about Skill Bridge, and I've had two veterans here in Florida who reached out and they're like, "Hey, I want to come do Skill Bridge with you if you'll take me in."
Yeah, Skillbridge is a great program which just like recently started, right?
I
Has it
think it
been
started
like
around 17, maybe
17? Okay,
something
I
like that.
just recently heard about it. My company, Elastic AI, does Skillbridge as well.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I think it's a great thing. Also, it allows for a smooth transition into the next job, and it also kind of keeps you in a safe team environment. So you're not like just basically cutting away and
yeah,
just hey, see you later. There has to be some kind of like step process into getting out. And I think for me, like having mentors and Paul Schultz has been like one of my great,
awesome guy.
obviously saved my life. If it wasn't for him, I'd probably be like homeless somewhere. But that has to that's a very serious thing that like a man should take on, and I feel like society in general should do that to younger men. We should, now that we're moving into a different position in our life, like I'm not like running and gunning, but I can still make a difference with like helping people, mentoring people, you know, and I think that's what it's all about, in a sense.
No, it's perfectly
So
said. Yeah, no, Skill Bridge is perfect because get those 6 months to transition into a new job basically instead of just walking out the gate of the base
yeah,
and being like, figure it out.
see ya.
Yeah, it's like
Good
it.
luck.
And you have that safety net of your paycheck for those 6 months while you're
Yeah.
figuring things
And
out.
the
So
military makes you do like transition programs, and I went to the military transition program, and they're basically like, well, you can get a job for like 60,000, and obviously you're retiring or whatever, so you're technically making like, 100,000 or 120,000. It's like, well, kind of like, no, not really. That should not be the framework that you should be using going into. You should be like be hungry and wanting to be successful and make as much money as possible. You shouldn't be like, oh, I'm just gonna rely on my retirement or whatever.
yeah,
That's my opinion.
no, I agree. I mean, I went through the taps. Everyone has to go through it, but I mean, there's definitely room to improve it
Yeah,
for sure. I think Skill Bridge is probably one of the most
yeah,
impactful ways. But I was saying that's why I like doing this show. People are gonna hear your story. I mean, who knows? There might be another Romanian kid
Yeah,
who over here trying to transition,
yeah.
whatever from branches of the military, whatever it is, and they hear your story. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, literally from Transylvania, which is Count Dracula, right?
Yeah, yeah. The
That,
the Eastern European ghetto.
yeah, yeah. That I mean, like being a special operator to doing an MBA to working at AI to doing XPJ. I mean, you've done a lot of really,
Thank you.
really, really cool things. And that's why you're the only guest I've had on here who's had a backstory like that. I mean, most of the guys we bring in, yeah, the former operator, but like you actually immigrated from two different countries before you even, or I should say three countries before
Yeah.
So I mean, you didn't have the easiest upbringing. Talk about like, kind of want to call it American privilege or whatever. Like you didn't have
Well,
none
no, I
of that
think that's
privilege.
no. I mean, I think you bring up a really great point. I think that is the American privilege in the sense of like, hey, I came here and I have an opportunity to become the man that I want, and America has given me that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's in the immigration. One thing that I want to point out that it's really dear to my heart for immigration stuff. It's like, okay, hey, I'm an immigrant. Again, I come here. I don't bring communism here. I don't bring my I ran away from that.
Yeah.
Why would I bring it here? You know what I'm saying? So I always feel a certain measure of like, I don't know, not disgust, but like I misunderstand. I don't understand people that, you know, you come from Russia or you come from a Muslim country and you want to impose your point of view onto this onto this community, but you ran away from that.
Yeah.
It was shady there, right? So why would you come here and try to make it your country? This is America. That's why it's great because you come here, you assimilate, and you have opportunity. You learn like you learn English. You become part of this community, and you are an asset, right? I don't. So that's very dear to my heart. Like I don't like when people come here and they just refuse to assimilate in a sense. I think that's the dangerous part of immigration.
Yeah.
So
Don't California my Florida.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do it because they're dumb.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Another thing I always like to ask people at the end is, what advice would you give to like 18-year-old guy, whether it's military, business, school, like if you could kind of go back knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you put out there?
I think the most important thing for me is like don't be afraid to fail. And when you fail, always really like be ready to get up right away. I tend to, whenever, for example, I failed out of buds, I was sulking like a fucking like a bitch for like months. You know what I mean? Just because I failed out, and the ability to recover from your failures will dictate the pace of your life. So the faster you recover from it, the faster you can get up and say, okay, like I'm dust off. That was that was rough. Let's keep going. I think that is the most indicative character trait that you could have in a successful man. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
No, wise words, wise words. Randy, you got anything? Been quiet over there.
My man has a soothing voice, bro. I can fight and sleep over here. He's like, hey guys. And I'm like, oh man.
He's got that calm, cool voice.
He's got that PBS voice,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, nice, calm.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Super smart. Love it. I mean, I love the fact that, one of the main things right now that's happening in America is the illegal immigration. Obviously, you did it the right way, came out here, and then you did something um, not just for yourself, but to help others. And then you're like a wildfire. You're spreading that out, and I think that's what like true immigration is supposed to do. It's supposed to come, be a part of the community, and help grow it for better. And I think, man, you're spot on, dude.
Supposed to bring something to the table.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Bring your unique skill set, something that you know different from your country over here to help.
And like honestly, for Kellogg, I'm a DI hire for Kellogg, right? Like in the sense of my academic record is not that great, you know. Uh, Obviously, I'm an immigrant and all that stuff. But if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't be there, right? So in a sense, like when I was getting interviewed for this, it's like, hey, like we have tons of Air Force Academy, like tons of Academy people, officers, veterans applying all the time. Why should we pick you instead of everybody else? It's like, well, here's my story. It's kind of a little different than everybody else. And the one thing they pointed out is like, yeah, well, we don't want, if we're in a room, right? You don't want 5 academy dudes because they're all going to have the same indoctrination. Yep. They're all going to have the same exact point of view. So now it's just an echo chamber of academy points of view, right? You want to have a little bit of different points of view so you can get a broader and wider perspective on the issue, right? So I think that's really important. And yes, like I don't like there's on the other side of coin of like DEI and all this like stupid liberal BS that we don't need to get into, but that I think that is a good perspective to have. And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Well, Paul, man, great story, great episode. I enjoyed it. I know everyone else is. I mean, your journey's all the way over from Transylvania to where you are now. I mean, it's a cool story. It's unique. And the fact that you speak like 4 different languages and you've done a lot of just, cool things. And I said, you're one of my best friends, man.
I appreciate it.
Anytime I've ever like asked you to be here for me, like whether it was a birthday or something, you're always just like, make it happen. You've never made an excuse like, oh, something came up last minute. Like you never flaked on me ever once. And even in my lowest lows and highest highs, you've always been there for me, man. And it means a lot to me. So you're exactly the kind of people I want to bring on the show because I want people to see. I want young men out there that maybe don't have a good influence in their life. They see someone like you, and it changes their life in a better way. So, brother, I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. And that's a wrap, man. That was good. Hey everyone, I wanted to thank everyone that supported John Howard Art last year. We did a little over $27,000 for charity. Every dollar from the proceeds go to charity, but I want to showcase some of the art for this commercial. We got really good prints. We got t-shirts. We got big coffee mugs. We got little coffee mugs. Even got simple things that's just like stickers. I stick these in my water bottle. Cell phone cases. I know it may seem little, but every little thing goes to charity. Like I said, last year we did over $27,000 for charity. This is my way of showing you my happiness when I'm in nature, and I appreciate the support, and we'll keep it going. Thank you. Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate here in Florida? If so, please contact me directly or contact my brokerage, John Howard Realty. I have an amazing team of people. Most of them are prior veterans or spouses of veterans. Everyone is very experienced, especially when it comes to real estate investing. As many of you know, short-term rentals, Airbnbs is how I got started in real estate, and I would like to help you do the same. Thank you.